what I'm talking about.
Hey yo, what is up guys, this is your boy Twa here, and this is part 2 of the Tower of Infinity on Lost Ark. Now, if you guys have seen the previous video, I could not get past floor 16. Actually did not put it up in a video how I got to floor 16, or how I actually completed it, but all that I can tell you is watch closely at the previous video and just see that there's a tactic for it. Simply by walking into the corner, not getting out of the corner, that way you don't get hit all that much. Now, as for now, we're moving on. Floor 17, this will be all up the way to floor 30 plus. I'm not quite sure how far I got into all of the footage, but let's get this popping. Some crazy stuff is going on here, and what I can be guaranteeing is that I will die. I will die a few times just to show you guys how hard it is for a first time on a stage. Now, I've been popping a lot of different skills, seeing what is the best. I've got myself a kind of a different build where I got to floor 40. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of that, but it is quite similar to the one I currently have. Now, these bosses, big as they may be, are actually still quite easy. Now, one of the reasons why I still pick a little bit of a different build is I like to have a stun on bosses. Can you stun all bosses? Practically not. This one currently got feared, which is amazing. This is why I love the R skill button that I currently have. It's a big demon. It's a little hard to hit. It's a little hard to get into, but if you do get it, it's definitely a good skill to start stacking, start doing massive damage, which is a very useful. There's another way, which is a different skill, which is a fan, and if you hit it twice onto, I think it is 3 stacks, you start stunning a boss. Then you can straight up press your R button, do exactly the same, and then basically stun lock a boss. Now, like I said, it doesn't work on all of them, but as long as it does work, it is amazing. Now, just for starters, and just to let you guys know, the way you actually get tickets into this game to simply do either cubing or do this tower is simply by playing. I got them into my daily box, and I got about 5 a day. And if you go to certain floors like this one, you actually get an extra addition of. Now this is a nasty way of dying. Yep. I looked at my screen, closed my eyes, hoped for the sound, nothing. Guess what happened? I don't know, the damage. And then you just start dying. Now, funny thing is, I got a lot of cool items out of this, so not as much of a problem. So, I got myself the new items, popped it off, started it once again, and then just started from there. It's like I said, it's not hard. You just gotta make it work, right? Now, one of the skills that I really want to use up or get it to a higher level is my W skill. Actually, it's a very useful skill in terms of getting extra stacks and getting away. Now, if you maximize this, there's a way to get the skill onto a maximum range. And if you port forward, do the double slap twice. If you hold it, you actually go back. Now, I'm quite wondering whether that going back is on a fixed scale, like, okay, you move from 1 meter and you get back 1 meter, or you go to full 3 meters up front, go back to full 3 meters. That is the same situation, but if you could actually move forward 1 meter and then pop back like a pushback for 3 meters, that is an automatic distance gainer and a very good skill in that sort. Still have to test that out, but that is probably for the next CBT. Now this is a floor I actually died to as well, and for several reasons. Like, mistakes that I do make very often is that I use my C button and tend to forget that I get locked during the whole animation. Now that is a huge problem because these bosses, they don't mess around. They really don't mess around. If they have the chance, they will whoop your ass in one go, and that's what most of the time happened to me. I thought to myself, oh, am I done yet? Nope. See, there we go. Now I get the ass whooping of a lifetime. The Capri Sun, like the solar flare, did not hit me all that much, but yeah. Now, later into this tower, I actually started to find out like very cheap ways to kill these bigger bosses, because like the bigger bosses, they have huge AoEs, but they have a large ass recovery frame. So basically you wait for several hits, run around, then once you find the time, then you simply just charge them, get a few hits in, then pop the cherry and let that be it. It is probably one of the easiest way to do it. It takes time, but there's no time limit on this. So if you want to gain here, if you want to gain floors, you simply cheese it out. That would probably be the best way. Obviously there could be other ways where you just rush down several bosses, because I know there is a boss where if you take too long, the ads that will spawn will actually start annoying you even more than usual. Although the start seems to be really good, I tend to make mistakes here and there. Like this one, I just decided to, yeah, let's start hitting something. But here's where I found out that there's an actual tech for this. So whenever he starts smashing the ground, he will stop popping pillars, right? That will knock you up. Now, this will basically leave a trail where you actually walked earlier. Now, that is a useful skill, but that means you also need to stay very mobile. If you don't, like I just did, you simply die. Now, the E button that I just used, like the big fan out with like 4 lines of cards, very good skill for small monsters. For bigger ones, I don't know, not quite a fan anymore. That's one of the reasons why I actually put that skill away for the other fan skill with the what is it called, the stun, Capri Sun. And since, yeah, I'm lagging, that stuff still hits me and it hurts, it really does. So 1 or 2 hits in, pop the cherry, still get hit like you do mas. I was actually hoping for me to get a stun in, which I actually did. If you do get it, there's a nice way to pop your S button. Like your S button, whether it be a very good skill or not, it will immobilize you to a certain extent, and it's hard to get out. And most of the time I still get hit while doing so. So that to me was actually a problem. Like right now, I'm popping it down, it works, but to some extent I'm putting myself at a huge risk, because if the boss actually moves and I don't have, for instance, my W or my spacebar up, there's no way for me to get out. See, there we go, you run around, watch the pillars, start moving once again. And obviously I know how to use my S button properly, because you never ever use it in frontward of the boss unless you have a single card. There's this movement speed card, which is actually very useful. I found out later of its use, but it will allow you to not collide with any enemies. Now, this may seem like a very useful skill, but whenever you're using your S button against bosses like this, I would not have gotten hit. But yeah, those are one of the things that once you start playing this game, you start learning more about every single possibility in it. And at some point you just cheese out the game. It's very easy. Funny thing is, there's always this choke point in one of the floors. Like, okay, you die in one of them, and then you start popping off like a few of them. Like most of the time, I just died at one, and then got 5 up, died at the same thing like 12,000 times again, and then got up 5 more, for instance. So it's not like, okay, you have to complete every single thing and then just think to yourself like, oh my god, the next one is going to become even harder, because they're not. They're not all evenly hard. Also, one of the skills that could be useful for stages whenever you make it is the Q button, but then on a traveling. Like the Q is the quantum tunnel, and whenever it pushes forward the smaller enemies, which is a very, very useful skill for smaller monsters. So basically, if you're actually up against, let's say, a boss that has like a gazillion of minions, now it will push away the minions, but it will actually kill them as well, because the damage itself is very, very strangely good too. Now, I didn't know what was going down here. It looked like a boss, but I was somewhat wrong. Well, it does have a lot of HP, but it was nothing like super fancy. I could even stun her and interrupt her like that, but I got scared, right? That does happen. Like sometimes you never know what you're facing here in this dungeon. You never know. But this is possibly one of the easiest ways, aside cubing, with a good team for getting items. Now, cubing itself is very situational if you're not playing with a party. Because cubing, you will need like several things. One of them would be a Devil Hunter. It does like the most damage currently into the game. You would need a Bard for healing, and then either a Destroyer or, I don't know, maybe a Warlord or Berserker for maximum stunning. But I think Bard is probably one of the very, very most useful classes that you can get there. The only thing that I think needs revamping on Arcana to make it more viable are the cards. The card buffings, they're fun, but they're too situational, and therefore not very much used by, I don't think, a lot of people. Like in PvP, you won't use them. I think in Guild PvE, you don't use them all that much either. And that to me is a problem, because it's a very funny feature, but I would actually say like, okay, you should have like another option to say like you can discard cards that you don't want and get like 50% of the gouge back. Like if that could be a possibility, then I think the card system would be really, really amazing. Now, just for explanation, the cards in the middle, there's 2 of them. There's a brown one, there's a like dragon headed one. The one on the left simply provides me with 2 new cards if they're unlocked. Now this can be stacked up to multiple times. I've had that on several occasions where you pop just multiple cards, which is a very useful thing. Like this way you can buff yourself until like oblivion. Amazing thing. The one on the right, a little bit bad. It will give your normal line of auto attacks 2 additional lines. So basically it turns into your E button, but then different. It's good, but it's not used at the higher level, the higher stages. So in all fairness, it's kind of useless. Like another thing that would make these cards useful would be the duration of the buffs, because right now the buffs only take about 10 seconds at maximum. Well, no, they're actually buffs for about 20 to 50 seconds, but I don't think it's, since the cards are situational, are that valuable at some point. But that could be just me, because you could, like I said, if you could stack cards by simply just removing them, and getting extra gouges, that could actually be a very huge potential to Arcana being super strong. Like right now, it's pretty good. Is it top tier? For what I heard from the Korean people, I don't think it's top tier. Devil Hunter is currently top tier, and Summoner is currently top tier in terms of damage. So there are several ways where I think that they could improve Arcana, and I think they will at some point. Because the cards that you get are mainly the cards that are the most useless. For instance, like the three-headed dragon one, the one where your other attack changes. Like to me, it is the most useless thing ever. Now, another question that I popped myself, like when I started playing this game, is like, okay, how much will lag, like, interrupt me? How much will it not allow me to play the game properly? And I've been through the whole CBT, and I've had my fair shares of deaths that were just unnecessary, but it did not hold me back from playing this game. It was annoying to some extent, but it was not on a frequency where I thought to myself like, okay, I'm dying every single second in this game. There's absolutely no way of playing this. I've had my several chances, like onto the Tower of Infinity, thinking to myself like, how in the hell am I going to make this? But so far, every single time I got up to 440 at a very first attempt into the CBT, right? I did not know a whole lot about the skills. I did not know a whole lot about the skill points, the armors, and whatever. I do know some things now, but I really think that even with 300 MS, you're still able to play this game. Am I able to play like a Battle Master, for instance, or an Infighter? I don't think so. Like, you really need to play a range class, because otherwise you will die, 100% sure. But in all cases, I think that you are able to play with 300 MS, which is a good thing because I'm still thinking of playing this onto the Korean version. Like, there will be a boss coming up pretty soon, and that boss killed me like most of the times, and that is purely because of lag, because otherwise I would not have a problem with it at all. Now we'll be able to tell you and show you why. Like, at some point these stages seem like really hard, but honestly, these are quite easy because of the skill build that I have. If I changed up maybe the Quantum Tunnel, it would have even become easier, but right now it did not cost me a whole lot of effort against smaller monsters at all. Now I think this would probably be one of the hardest as a 300 ping player, because if you don't get out of the situation very fast, you will die. But luckily I have two skills that will help me, like three skills: my space dash, my W, which is kind of like instant, but right here is where this game should have actually killed me. Look at my face. I'm like, ah, made it. I was so surprised. I didn't think I would make it because, like I said, this is probably one of the hardest things that you have to deal with as a hyping player. I think this is one of the harder stages that I currently have, and this is also one of the stages that killed me like the most times, because there's this one move where as you have above, I think, 200 ping, there's no way of dodging it properly. Now here I just tried to do like a lot of damage, and it just messed me up so badly. If I probably had my other skill build, I would have done ways and ways better, because I think these bosses you're actually able to fear them. Now, as you just saw, these things will bite you and then pull you back. Now, this is the thing that killed me the most of the time, because the ping does not allow you to run away from it like a normal Korean person. Here is where I became a dumbass and just tried to attack it. But like I said, if I had my other skills, I think I would have done even better. For instance, like if I would have had the demon summon, I could have easily feared at least one of these guys. Like mostly you want to have two of them feared if you want to do the maximum capacity. But still, like, it would have made my life so much easier. And I hope this also answers the question from a few of these guys, like, okay, is this an easy game, or is it actually giving you a run for the money? Well, you got the footage here, boys. See, there we go. Like, I thought I ran away. Game says, well, I think different, and it will fuck you up. It just happens. Alright. As promised, I will make one time where I actually do make it. Now, I took different skills in this case, and I maybe could have picked an even different one, because right now I'm having the skill on my A, which is not a very used skill. Now this time I'm using the quantum tunnel onto a moving, And I really do love that skill. Like, this skill is so useless. The thing I should have picked otherwise, if I would have gone for a normal skill, it would have been the normal dot portal. There's like a portal that you can use, and you can put it down, and it acts like a landmine, and you have to activate it yourself. So basically you can just put it down. It takes about 0.5 seconds, so there's a lot of moving going on into that too. Very useful. And then you can pop it, and I use it for the next boss that I faced, but at some point I found out like, hey, I can stun this puta, and at that point I made it, because even before that I had so much trouble with it. But we'll get to that in a second. And I thought to myself, like, okay, it will be so easy once I kill the very first fucker, because if I do that, I won't have as much trouble killing the rest of these. And I should have even played it more safe. Like, I've been on several of these bosses thinking like, how the hell do I do it? By being patient. It's that fucking simple. And by knowing which skills they do, because that will help you out a lot. Like, for instance, these AoE indicators make it like a lot and a lot easier, but there are several skills that you know that you have to pop with. Like, the right one is started rushing in a circle. Once it does that, it'll actually act as a gazer and do a huge AoE attack with some like, let's say oil on the ground. Like, that will mess you up if you stand too close. You do have some time to hit them, but that's only if they're solo, because these other ones, they will mess you up as well. Now, taking that into account, it allowed me to say like, okay, I'll let that guy stay in the middle there, and then I run out. So that was the move I was talking about. So you have to find several ways to actually get yourself into situations where you're both safe and you can dish out a lot of damage. Stunning is probably the best one out of them. Otherwise, you'll have to deal with like fast skills, high mobility skills. Because if you don't, you'll get hit and you will die. 100% sure. And you gotta get a little bit of the cheese factor too. Like, you gotta wait for these guys to pop their skills. Like here, I didn't wait for it. If I ran around even more, it would have been so much easier to hit them without getting hit. But that is part of the cheese, guys. That's part of the cheese. But and here you can see that these bosses actually take a long ass time, and if you mess up just a little bit, you will die. You can use a few potions here and there, but they're on a very, very high cooldown. And I can guarantee you, they will likely never save you. The only thing where you can actually get them is probably either quests or alchemy. Like, you cannot buy those things in the store, sadly. So now that the little prick is gone, it makes it a lot and a lot easier for me to just channel all of my skills and mess around here and there. See, I know he will pop up there. I know my S button does the most damage whenever I do the last twirl.
shooting.